The Parker Family DNA Disaster, Part 4. Twinnem? The tent was still thick with tension from the first DNA reveal. People were still whispering about Malcolm's true parentage, but no one was saying a word to Kenneth or Reggie. The air was heavy with confusion and disbelief. Drinks had been poured, but barely sipped. Plates had food on them, but barely touched. Deb had run off, and Aunt Marjorie had immediately followed her, trying to comfort her. Reggie sat quietly in a chair, his hands folded tightly in front of him, trying to process the news. Meanwhile, Kenneth and Vanessa were at the open bar, both silently nursing their drinks, staring into their glasses as if it would somehow help them make sense of what had just happened. Uncle June let out a long sigh, clearly feeling the weight of the tension in the air. All right, y'all. We still got more results to get through. Let's see what's up with these twins next. He clicked on the next file, and up popped the names of Uncle Eddie and Uncle Roy. The room fell into a hush as their ancestry breakdown appeared on the projector screen. Uncle Eddie's ethnicity report: 85% West African, 10% European, 5% Indigenous American. Uncle Roy's ethnicity report: 43% West African, 29% European, 25% Indigenous Mexican, 3% East Asian. A ripple of confusion spread through the tent. Cousin Charlene, always the first to spot some mess, squinted at the screen. Why Uncle Roy got a whole different ethnicity breakdown than Uncle Eddie? Y'all supposed to be identical twins, right? Murmurs spread through the crowd. People leaned in closer, rereading the numbers. Well, that don't make no damn sense, someone muttered. Uncle Eddie frowned. That gotta be a mistake. We identical twins. We've been identical twins for 62 years. Big Mama sat at the head of the table, hadn't said a word yet. Her face was set in stone, eyes locked on the screen. Uncle June cleared his throat and clicked to the next slide. DNA relationship match. 50% DNA match, half siblings. A fork clattered onto a plate. Silence. Then Cousin Charlene jumped up. Y'all ain't even real twins! Uncle Eddie spit out his drink. Hold on! Everyone turned to look at the 62-year-old so-called twins. Except they weren't twins at all. They were half-brothers born at the same time. Gasps. Aunt Lisa stood up. Wait, you mean to tell me Big Mama was out here? Uncle Eddie jumped up. Now, hold on. We don't know what this means. Aunt Lisa cackled. Yes, we do. It means Big Mama had two different baby daddies at the same time. More hollering, chuckles, and gasps erupted. Miss Ruthie and Miss Geraldine, Big Mama's longtime friends, gasped and clutched their pearls. Lord have mercy, Miss Geraldine fanned herself. Well, they ain't never looked identical to me no way, someone muttered. Meanwhile, Uncle Eddie and Uncle Roy were in shock. We've been twins for 62 years, Uncle Roy whispered. And we ain't even twins. Uncle Eddie's mouth opened, then closed. Uncle Roy turned to Uncle Eddie. Bruh, say something. Uncle Eddie was staring at the screen, lips pressed together. Aunt Lisa shook her head. So, Big Mama, you got some explaining to do. All eyes turned to her. Big Mama finally leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Explain what? Cousin Charlene scoffed. Big Mama, come on now. That screen just said they half brothers. That mean they got different daddies? Big Mama sucked her teeth. And the whole tent froze. Uncle Eddie blinked. And? Ma, what the hell? Big Mama rolled her eyes. What? What y'all want me to say? Them suckers been dead and gone for decades. Ain't like it matter now, y'all grown. Uncle Roy finally found his voice. So you knew? Big Mama shrugged. I mean, I had an idea. An idea? Uncle Eddie's voice cracked. Ma, we've been calling ourselves twins our whole life. Big Mama exhaled like she was growing tired of the conversation. And y'all still brothers. Y'all still got the same mama. That don't change nothing. Uncle Roy rubbed a hand down his face. Man, damn. Uncle Eddie looked ready to fight the air. Meanwhile, Cousin Charlene was loving this. This reunion better than loving hip-hop. Uncle Eddie was still standing, looking like he was about to combust. So what? We got different daddies and you just never thought to say nothing? Big Mama leveled him with a look. Boy, what difference would it have made? You was gonna love him any less? You was gonna stop claiming each other? What I did back in the day ain't got nothing to do with how y'all grew up. The twins exchanged a look. They didn't have an answer for that. The room sat in stunned silence again, the weight of the revelation settling in. Then Uncle June, still seated at the laptop, let out a long sigh and shook his head. Well, between this and Malcolm's situation, I'm starting to feel like we need to change the name of this whole event to 23andMe Family Reunion. But the quiet that followed was a broken, hesitant voice from Uncle Eddie. So, who is our real daddy then? He asked, voice shaking lightly. Was it Papa Charlie? Was he our dad or not? The whole room turned back to Big Mama. Big Mama paused, eyes narrowing at the question. She tilted her head, almost as if reflecting on something long buried. Charlie? That good-for-nothing man who could barely keep a job, but always thought he was the boss? Yeah, he might have been the one who raised y'all, but he wasn't no father in my eyes. But, like I said, he raised y'all. That's what matters. There was a bitter edge to her voice as she continued. Don't matter if he's both your fathers or not. Them suckers are dead and gone. And you both are here, grown, and that's what counts. Ain't no need to dwell on it now. Uncle Eddie opened his mouth, but then closed it. There was nothing more to say. The twins exchanged another glance, their expressions heavy. They didn't know if they felt relief, anger, or something else entirely. All they knew was that nothing felt the same anymore. And just as the silence began to fill the air again, Uncle June leaned forward, clicking the next file, and another name popped up on the screen, Kayla Daniels, Cousin Trina's daughter. A hushed murmur ran through the crowd when the name appeared. Uncle Ronnie put his hand in his face. He let out a sigh. Should we even continue with these, June? I told you this wasn't a good idea. Kayla had been practically glowing since the start of the reunion. She was newly engaged, excited, smiling, and not a care in the world about her results. She was Trina Parker's daughter, and if anyone could carry themselves with confidence, it was Kayla. She was the splitting image of her father, Michael, who had died while deployed in Afghanistan a few years ago. Kayla raised her hand as Uncle June clicked to pull up the results. I'm not worried. We good, she said, her voice light and carefree. But what was waiting on the screen would soon turn everything upside down.